At the end of April in our home, we had a water disaster that resulted in about 3 months of construction work and rebuilding and renovations. And the construction workers finally finished up in July and they got all their tools and they'd done such good work putting everything back together again. Looked great. But as they left and pulled out of that driveway that day, there was still work that needed to be done, a little light work to make sure that we polished up the place, cleaned up the dust and the dirt, and were really able to showcase the work, the hard work that all those construction workers had done. That's kind of what's still left to do in MyMaranatha. The people at Genzabar have done a great job updating things and coming up with ways that MyMaranatha will work better for our students. But there's still some last minute polishing that all of us are going to need to be involved in so that we can really showcase the website and so that it can work best for students. So we're going to focus now on talking about how we can do just that with the handouts and bookmarks portlets. This is what the course documents page looks like in my children's literature class from student view. Fairly well organized, right? And this is what that same page looks like in the new MyMaranatha in student view. Wow, huge change. We're kind of living in a Pinterest world now. Have you noticed that? And that's kind of what's going on here. They've taken all of the handouts and put them in what they call a card view. Again, remember, this is mobile friendly. This makes it easier for people on their phones and iPads and tablets to access different things. So this is card view. But this can get really messy if you have a lot of handouts. And something they built in then is that the user can decide how they can view these or how they will view these. Right now, we're viewing this in card view. But there's another option, and I can decide as the user to change it to a list view. Wow, much better, right? A little more organized, a little easier to scan down and see what's going on. And for those handouts where I actually had a description, you can see that a little easier. So here's what we'd like to ask everyone to do. We would like to have some consistency as to how handouts and also bookmarks, because bookmarks work the same way, how they are displayed across MyMaranatha. The default view is for students, if nothing's done, to see your handouts displayed in this card view. But with just a couple of quick fixes, you can force students to instead see the handouts in the list view. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And then I'm also going to talk to you about another obstacle that may be a little bit confusing for you. Right now I'm in student view, and so I'm going to go up here and click back to regular view. And when I do that, you're going to see some things. First of all, you're going to see here under documents week 1, week 2 unit, week 3 unit, week 4 unit. These are all different sets. And look, it goes all the way down to week 16, because in my class I have the class set up by weeks and there are 16 units. But there are no handouts under any of these. And although students will not see these sets, you will see them, and there's nothing you can do to get rid of these empty sets. You just have to live with them for now. Although we do plan to put in a request to Genzabar to ask them if we could turn off empty sets from teacher view so that teachers don't have to see empty sets. But for right now, you'll see all of these empty sets, and these are generated by the course. Everyone will have unit sets that are automatically generated depending on what the units are on your coursework page. Maybe your units are set up by, you have a category for papers. Maybe you have a unit that's projects. Maybe you have a unit that's quizzes. Well, if you do, you will see these sets automatically generated for each of those units you have on the coursework page. All I can say for you for right now is just to ignore them and scroll down to your real handouts. And my real handouts are down here at the bottom. So notice I've got read aloud, author sale, folk comparison project, and they each have documents under those sets. Well, what I'm going to teach you to do now is to first of all, change the setting so that students view the handouts in a list rather than in this card format. And we would like this to be standard across MyMaranatha. So even though maybe it doesn't bother you, remember that's not about our personal preferences, it's about the user's personal preferences. And so we want to change this so that all students view handouts in the same way, if at all possible, and that's in the list view. Let me show you what I mean by this and how you can fix it. Over here in the right hand corner, I'm going to click on the editing tool, and then I get a drop down. The next thing I'm going to do is I have a whole lot of options here, but I'm going to click on settings. Then I have a drop down here for each of the portlets on that page. So the first one is a documents portlet or a handout portlet. Right now the default view is card view. This is how it comes from the factory. The default is card view across all of the courses in MyMaranatha. We're going to change that for this particular portlet to list view. And then I'm going to go on to handouts. And I'm going to change that to list view. And then I'm going to save my changes. So now I've got this in a list view rather than in a card view. And let me show you how nice it looks for the students now. Doesn't that look nicer for the students? So everything's better organized and they can see things just a little bit better. So what we'd like to ask you to do is to go through each of your handout portlets and each of your bookmark portlets. Go to the editing tool in the top right hand corner and change the default under settings for each of those portlets, which are right here in the drop down, from card view to list view. If we can do that consistently across all of our courses in MyMaranatha, I think that will work better for students. Now, adding a handout and adding a set is pretty easy. You just go to your set and then you click on add handout, and it's quite easy then to add a handout to that set. So that works pretty much the same way it used to. So that's a little bit about how the handouts portlet works and also how the bookmark portlet works. And so think about that as you design your courses. For instance, I'll show you. I have a class page in my children's lit class called Handouts for Resource File. And I had tons of pages, tons of information on that page. Well, that doesn't actually work very well in the new MyMaranatha. So what I'm actually going to end up doing is shifting things around and taking the content that's on this one page and putting it on 3 separate pages, and I think that'll work better for students. So there's a little bit of shining up, polishing, and fine-tuning that all of us will need to be involved in when it comes to getting our courses set up and presentable for students. But we're all in this together, and I'm happy to help you when you get to that point and show you some shortcuts that I've learned already on how to rearrange things and get things set up for your students.